Hello and welcome to the Knitting Traditions Podcast. My name is Inga and this is my little corner on the internet where I talk about my knitting. This is a little extra podcast episode for you guys from the cabin before I go on a trip. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I hope you enjoy this content, and if you're returning, welcome back. I am at the cabin. I have 2 weeks off from work. I work as a doctor on the west coast of Norway, and I have a trip planned this coming weekend to Paris with my cousin and a friend, and then another trip the weekend after with my boyfriend. And I just had a few days before those trips, so I went to the cabin. I'm here with my father. We've gone skiing, and I brought some knitting for my travel knitting, so I figured I would show you what I'm working on. I have more knits in a suitcase that's not here. I sent it to Bergen already, which is where we'll be flying out from, but I do still have some knitting. If you know me, you know that I am a prolific knitter. I like to knit all the time, so I do have things to show you. So settle in with something that makes you feel cozy, and let's get into it. First, a little bit of very hot coffee. Okay. So I'm wearing a finished object, and it's very cold in my bedroom. We just got back home. So I'm wearing a new finished object. This is a hat that I made. It's a 2x2 rib, so I knit 2, purl 2. I used 5.5 millimeter needles, and I used the yarn Viking yarn Eco Highland wool, which I held double, and I do believe that yarn is 110 meters to 50 grams, so 220 to 100 grams, so it's like a thicker DK. I know fingering is 400, and then anything else than that I kind of get a little bit confused. But I held it double, so it's quite thick. I think I ended up using 74 or 76 stitches. I first cast on 64, I think, and it just was tiny. So I ripped back and started again. I never swatch for hats or socks. It's a swatch on its own, so I just ripped back, started again with a few more stitches, and it fits really well. I use the decreases that are used in the watch cap hat by Soho. It's my favorite. It has a nice shape, I find, that gives it gives a rounded head shape, which I like because I like a fitted beanie. I don't like this style. So yeah. The stitch count that I used was divisible by 4, but it didn't work with the decreases because you want the decreases to start on a knit stitch, and I think when I divided the amount of stitches that I had 19 stitches to get to a knit stitch, and then the last of the 4th decrease was like 16 stitches left, so it didn't add up. So I just didn't do decreases on one of these until I had decreased the other 3 places 3 times, so it all aligned up. It's fine. It's not noticeable, but if I were to do it again, I probably would do a stitch count that would work with that. I think in the watch cap hat patterns, it's like 100 stitches or 120 or 160, so if it was a stitch count divisible by 20, that probably would work. I don't know. It all works in the end either way, just note to self for the future me. I knit this in a day or an evening. It was really a quick knit, and it made me want to knit a lot more hats in all the spring colors. It's officially spring, even though outside right now I'm looking at a snowstorm and there's 3 meters of snow. But it is spring. We're going towards the lighter days, and as with every spring, Inga is feeling the need for color, bright color. And I definitely have a theme of the orange yellows this spring, like a ripe mango. That's my favorite yellow. So I am feeling the urge to cast on all the colors, and in my suitcase right now that I am taking with me, I have the coloring book Raglan. Is that what it's called? By Amy Schur? I'll have to look into that, but I'm doing the fingering weight version with pearl soho linen quill in this color, and I have this color, and I also have like a white color, and I was unsure if I was going to do the white with yellow stripes or do the yellow with white stripes. I think I'm going to go for the yellow with white stripes. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then there was this V-neck knit in linen quill by Paula Pereira. I do have that pattern, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. I've been looking at a lot of the projects, and the way the V-neck hits is not what I want. I either prefer a closed neck or an actual like V-neck that is a proper V-neck. And that one kind of looks in between on a lot of photos. So I would have to do some mods to get the neckline the way that I like. So that's a little bit on the back burner, but I do have the yarn to do it if I want to. I have packed yarn for the Vildnid sweater by Fiber Tales, and I bought the number 3 New Zealand wool from G-uld when I was there after Christmas, and that is the yarn used for the Vildnid sweater. So I want to make it, and I want to make it in one of the dyed skeins that I bought from G-uld. I also have a lot of the undyed. I bought 3 skeins in different colors, thinking that would be a sweater's quantity, because in the store for a medium-sized sweater that would fit me, I tried them on. The recommended yardage for 2 different patterns that they had in the store samples used 3 skeins. So 3 skeins should be enough for a medium size for me. However, in the pattern, I bought the pattern from Larke, and she recommends 4 skeins for all the sizes. I think even the smaller size uses like 3,050 grams or something like that. So I'm going to be playing yarn chicken. I do have a dark gray color from G-uld, which I have 4 of, but 3 should be enough. I feel like 3 should be enough, and it's a top-down sweater. So I'm going to be playing yarn chicken, because when you knit top-down, you can just stop when you run out of yarn. Either do shorter sleeves or shorter body, or you can rip back the sleeves, do them tighter. Same with the body. It's very versatile, and it's a safer yarn chicken game. If you knit a sweater bottom up and you run out of yarn here, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? If you know, let me know, but no. Top down for me if I'm going to be playing yarn chicken. So that's what I'm intending to do. I have actually already cast on the neckline for that, and I've packed the yarn, I've packed the needle sizes that I'm going to use. So I have the coloring book Raglan tea. I have that packed. I have the Vildnid sweater packed, and that is what's in my suitcase with needles, interchangeable needles, and whatever I'm going to need. And then I have some other stuff with me. I digress. That was the plans. I'm not finished talking about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Alasuc Polar by Linka Neumann. She's a Norwegian designer. She designs a lot of these big color work sweaters knit in lettlopi and alafosslopi and those Icelandic yarns. I went for some very spring-like colors when it comes to my way of thinking of spring. I keep this here at the cabin just because it's a very thick, warm sweater, and it's great to throw on when sitting outside. And yesterday I was sitting outside. We had the bonfire going. We put sausages on it after we went skiing. It was 2 or 4 plus degrees, and the sun was really strong, and it was so nice and warm. And I was sitting there hanging up my first hand spun and knitting, and this was a perfect layer. I used alafosslopi, and then I think for the orange color and the yellow color, I think those two colors, I used lettlopi held double. So if you hold lettlopi double, that is the same as alafosslopi single. So you can mix and match those colors if you're knitting with the alafosslopi gauge to get more colors that you like. So yes, that is what I'm wearing. I have a finished object. Now I don't have... Oh, another thing that I'm wearing, I am sitting on my hot water bottle, which I made with Advent mini scraps from Amy Palco's stash. She sent me some of her woolly scraps, and I made a stripy hot water bottle cover with it, and I love it. Love it. Finished object. So I don't have sock blockers, but I did finish these socks. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place today. I just really wanted to talk with you guys. I felt chatty. So I finished a pair of socks. These are my own pattern, the Moorshel sock pattern. And it's really quite a vanilla sock. It's knit top down. It uses a special heel construction, which is what my grandmother taught me, which was taught to her by her grandmother. It is quite similar to a heel flap and gusset, but you do some increases and then some decreases on the back to do a rounded heel, and then the stitches are knit together underneath quite seamlessly. And then you pick up stitches and you do a gusset as you would with a heel flap and gusset. And the pattern is both for a fingering weight yarn, but it's also for a fingering with a mohair, which is my favorite. Now, the first sock of these, and it's a regular Kitchener heel, the first sock I had knit until probably here for quite a long time. I just did not enjoy knitting on it because it was on 2.25 millimeter needles, and I knit on 30 centimeter circulars, which are like 11 to 12 inch, and I like my socks to be quite fitted on my feet, so I had a small, I think I had 64 stitches on 2.25, and it was a little bit tight to knit with, and I just didn't enjoy the process. And then I had all these other socks with mohair, which just flies off the needle because it's a thicker gauge, so I just wasn't enjoying it. But I made myself finish the toe and cast on the other one, and I decided to use magic loop for that one, and definitely knitting the heel is a lot faster with the magic loop needle than going purling on the smaller circumference needle. So yeah, I knit it in a day. I don't know why it took me so long to just do it. I wanted to knit on other things, but it's finally done. And I knit this in this beautiful yarn from Zakami. I think it's the Lulu, or the Lulu might be the color, but this is the Lulu, which is 60% superwash fine merino, 21 micron count, 20% baby alpaca, and 20% mulberry silk. It's 460 meters, so it's a lighter fingering weight. It is quite thin. I wanted to knit this on its own without silk mohair just to see how beautiful the color is. And then my thought was that once I had finished this, I would pair it with a white silk mohair and knit a pair. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this to knit a tube with white silk mohair and then do contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes, and that way use up this beautiful yarn. And this will then be knit on 3mm needles instead of 2.25. So that is one finished object. Another finished object is something that has been in the making for 2 years. So for 3 years ago, I bought a spinning machine, an electric e-spinner, Ashford e-spinner. I can show you. This thing, I bought this 3 years ago. I wanted to learn how to spin. I had a lot of fiber from where I used to live, and I just wanted to learn to spin. This is the one that I have. It comes in a nice neat package, and I got a nitty naughty. So this weekend I had spun this up, I think last summer. I'd spun it up, but I hadn't hanged it up. So I used the nitty naughty. I taught myself how to do it, and I finally managed to hang these 2 first spins that I have ever created, and it's very uneven, very thick, thin, something with high twist, something with low twist. I don't even know what fiber this is. This is some fiber that I bought when I bought this spinning machine. It's 100% some sort of sheep wool, some breed, but I was very new to it at the time, and sadly I did not write down what it is. So it's some undyed woolly wool, but it feels quite nice and soft. Now I haven't soaked or washed these yet, and from what I can see on YouTube, you're supposed to like whack it once you've done that, so I'm not completely done, but done enough for now. And I do think I'm going to take the e-spinner with me home, because I thought I had fiber here to spin, but apparently don't. It must be at home, so I'm going to take it home and hopefully feel the inspiration to practice a little bit more. Highly inspired by Ivana from the Republic of Me. I also now want to weave, so I want to make my own handspun, and I want to weave with it, thanks to her. So that is one finished object, not knitting. I will say though, however, I find it really hard to find good instructional videos on YouTube for spinning. I spent a whole day, and I found a lot of videos that are more like podcasting style, like this. But I found that when I was looking for specific things, like how I would like to someone to show just, you know, how to do how to spin and how to ply, like what way do you put your bobbins, like what you do. Why is it so hard? Even with the nitty naughty, everything was like 10 minutes long, and I just want to know what direction does the yarn go. So I found a photo in the end, and that was what I needed. I needed simple things in my life. Simple things. But if you know someone who makes really good short, simple videos of how to do different techniques and stuff, then that would be great. If not, I will just figure it out on my own and watch videos for hours. Okay, now I can probably, I'll save the travel knitting, and I'll show you first what I've been knitting on while at the cabin. So this is my Advent blanket from 2022. I got the Zakami Advent in 2 bases, a fingering weight and a Suri alpaca base. So I am doing just a stripy blanket on 3.75 millimeter needles, and I'm knitting until I run out of the fingering. Then I do a few, like 1 to 2 garter bumps of this lace to light fingering weight alpaca that I have in some old stash, and I'm using 4 millimeter needles for this because it's slightly thinner so that the gauge evens out. And then I do a stripe of the suri, and then I just keep going like that. And I have taken out some of the colors. I've taken out the blues because I'm not a very blue person. In retrospect, I would also have liked to taken out the purples and just stayed with browns and greens, but it would have been too short. Also, if you can look at this is the same colorway, but the suri doesn't take the brown, it seems, because with every colorway where the fingering weight is brown, the suri goes for a purple. So yeah, there wouldn't have been many minutes left if I were also to have taken out the purples. So since I got to the cabin last time, I was knitting on this color, and I've been here for 2 days and I've knit this colorway and I've started this colorway, which I think might just be my favorite colorway of the minis. And this is day 13 of the Advent. I don't know which color it is. I have a cheat sheet at home, but it's the 13th day and I think it's really pretty. Yes, beautiful, beautiful colors. It's very scrappy. I'm not a huge fan of scrappy projects aesthetically, but this is for the cabin. It fits in with the aesthetic here, and it's so soft and it's so lovely to knit on. It's very mindless, so I'm enjoying it immensely. So it's already getting quite big, and I have taken the remainder of the minis up here, and I'm just gonna have it here at the cabin and knit on it when I'm here for just some simple TV knitting. Also, one of the reasons I wanted to show a little podcast today, because when I'm here, that's probably most of what I'm gonna be knitting on, so that takes up quite a lot of my knitting time when I'm here, because it takes a while to knit on it. It's a lot of stitches, but it's a nice long-term project. And I have my old yarn swift here. I don't have a ball winder here, but I got myself a new yarn swift because my old one was kind of falling apart. I've fixed it several times. The new one is really nice, but the old one is still functional. I just have to tie new threads, and the wooden twist thing that you tighten it with is broken, so I really have to use force, but it works. So I'm gonna have that here at the cabin so that I can wind those little minis up when I'm here. I'll wind by hand, but use the yarn swift and I'll be quick. Okay, so I talked about my travel plans that I have in my suitcase, but I also have some in my purse right now that I've been knitting on. And I think I've decided which one of the, because it's 3 things in my purse, I think I've decided on which one of the 3 to bring on the plane for plain knitting. So the first one that didn't make the cut is this one. Do you see a theme? This color I like even more than this one. This is a proper ripe mango color. So this is a sock tube. And the reason I'm not going to bring it as the plain knitting is because I'm knitting it on my circular metal needles. And I feel like metal needles have a higher chance of not being approved and going through the security than others. So there is no guarantee that like some airports are safe and some are not. It really depends who is sitting at the security check that day, I think. Some places, most likely it's not a problem. Other places have a reputation of being a bit more problematic. So I take some steps to sneak my needles through either way. But metal needles don't make the cut. This is a sock tube that I am knitting on. After doing my sock stash organization video, I've really felt the urge to knit more socks. I felt quite inspired, so I highly recommend going through your stash and letting yourself be inspired by what you have. So these 2 yarns are quite a good match, if I may say so myself. So the fingering weight was gifted to me to try, and this is the first time I'm using this yarn. It's the Isalloni, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's the Isalloni merilin fingering, and this is 100% Corriedale. It's 400 meters, so it's a fingering non-superwash yarn, 100% Corriedale wool. And it doesn't say which color it is. Maybe merilin is the color. But it's beautiful. It's quite a solid yellow, I would say. It doesn't have that much tonality in it. It's very even and beautiful. And I'm holding it with the silk mohair to get a thicker gauge and just make sock knitting a bit more pleasurable for me because it goes a bit faster. I can make more. It's great gift knitting. It's easier on my hands, all the good stuff. So the yarn that I'm holding it with was also a single skein in my stash that I bought 2 years ago, I think, from Fabel knitwear. And this is the butterbear colorway. It's 72% kid mohair and 28% silk, 420 meters. So I got a single one of these at the time, I think, where I knit the ranunculus with a single skein of silk mohair in a very similar color. So I probably could do that again, but I don't need to. And if I'm honest with myself, it fits, but I don't like the short sleeves for me. I would like it to be longer sleeved, so not going to use it for that. So I figured they were a great match, and I'm just going to knit and see how much I can get out of it. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to do a contrasting heel cuff and toe or not. So I'm just knitting a tube and see how much I get out of it. And if I have a lot left, I can do contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes in a different color and use the remainders for another sock. Or I can do it to finish with pick up stitches and do a cuff, cut and unravel half, and do a heel and a toe at the end. But so I am knitting on 3mm needles. These are approximately 30 centimeters from tip to tip, or 11 to 12 inch. I cast on 60 stitches, but I quite quickly saw that this was quite wide. So I decreased 4 stitches, and I saw that it was still quite wide, so I decreased 2 stitches. Still quite wide, so I decreased 2 stitches. Right now I'm down to 50 stitches, so 10 stitches left than the cast on. It's not super visible, but it is smaller. So the other socks should be the same. So I could either knit a super long tube closer to like 60 centimeters, or probably knit until 50, and then for the next 10 centimeters slowly increase up to 60 stitches and bind off, and then cut the long tube in half to do the toes and heels. Or I can now knit for about 30 centimeters and then put the stitches on hold using these plastic tube thingies, and then do another one the same way. That is an option. And then see how much yarn I have left after doing that. If I still have a lot of yarn left, I could then cast on a tube with 50 stitches and just knit until I run out of yarn. That way I would have 2 pairs of socks with then contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. So I haven't quite decided. Having to decide things is like a weird thing with knitting for me that kind of puts me off. I don't like having to make decisions. I just want to knit. So I don't know. This was just a couple of hours of knitting. It does really go quite fast on the 3mm with 50 stitches. And the mohair is more of a tonal, so it does add a bit of interest to the sock. So I do have a lot of these with me for the trip, just so that I can put things on hold and use the needles for other stuff. So I might just knit this for 30 centimeters and then put it on hold and do another one and then do a tube. So yes, that might just be what we're doing with this. So that was one of my travel knits. Small, portable project. Downside for the plain is that it's metal tipped, and also another downside is that it's 2 balls, so it's a little more things to, you can't just put 1 ball in your lap, you need to pay attention that you have 2 balls. Not a big thing, but slightly more fiddly. So another project that I'm bringing that I think will not make the cut for plain knitting is this. And the reason it's not making the cut is because it's a black yarn. And I just don't know if tired me will want to be knitting on black yarn on the plain. This is good for morning knitting and day knitting, but yeah. What it is the beginnings of a kjmilus tee by petite knit. Last summer I made 3 of these, and I made the 2 of them in the line from Sandnesgarn, or tynn line, and they're great summer tops. But the last one I made was with Viking garn Bambino, which I think, of course I don't have the label with me now, I think it's a 50% bamboo, 50% cotton, and it feels amazing. So I made it in this bottle green last year, and I love it. It looks really nice on, and it feels really great, and I like how the feeling is after washing, a lot more than the line, which I feel like has a tendency to stiffen up a bit with washing. This one is wonderful. And I bought the yarn already last year, I think 5 or 6 of these, to make another one. And I think I cast on the medium size for this. For none of the versions last year, I didn't do an icord around the edge for either one of those. I like the deeper V. So I'm just gonna knit the medium size and then see if I want to do the icord or not for this one. And I'll probably do longer sleeves for this one, maybe like down to the elbow or just above. We'll see, we'll figure it out. But this is a good travel knitting because it's on 3mm needles and it's a fingering weight yarn, so it really lasts you a long time if you want to bring something that doesn't take a lot of space and weight but will take you a long time to knit. But it is black yarn, so it's not something to knit on in the evenings, but I'm taking it with me, but it's just not gonna be my plain knitting. So what is gonna be my plain knitting? So I have some super old stash. So old stash that it doesn't have a label. I'm thinking 6 or 7 years old stash. I did some research online. I tried to find it, but I can't. So you, my wonderful, beautiful knitting community, we're quite a lot of people here by now, which is crazy. I'm so honored that so many of you enjoy my content. If you know what this could be, please write below. It's a malabrigo yarn. I'm like 90% sure this is malabrigo, and it is thinner than a regular fingering weight. I would say this is lace weight. So I would like to know what it is to know how many meters I have, but it's definitely thinner than a fingering weight. This is lace to me. I mean, come on, it's so thin. It's so thin. Very, very thin. This has to be merino. It feels like superwash, and I want to say it has some silk content, but I'm not sure. Now, I did some research online and I looked through different malabrigo Rios, 100% merino silk, and I couldn't find this colorway. And it might just be that they don't make this colorway anymore, that it's discontinued. When I bought this yarn, I also bought the color Sunset, I think, which is more in a goldeny yellow color. And I also bought some off-white, undyed or bleached, I don't know. But this color I can't find online. It's a beautiful red rust with orangey golden tones. So if you know, please share with the world. It's beautiful. And I have 2 of it. So I have what I'm assuming is 200 grams. I could weigh them, I just haven't. But I'm assuming it's 200 grams because it usually is. So I have 2 of them. And I was playing with the idea of knitting a half and half triangles wrap. Another one. But then I was also thinking that if I can get a big square with just this one color, that would be really nice. Because if not, I would be pairing with the white, and it might this color might bleed and stain the white pink, and that's not what I want. I did do a swatch and it seemed to be okay, but it would be a lot of knitting and I just don't know if I'm ready to take the chance on that. So what I did instead is I measured my half and half triangles wrap, the one that I've used the most, which when I laid it down, one side measured 1.3 meters, so 130 centimeters, so it's huge. And I measured the swatch that I made for this, and I saw I think I had 30 stitches per 10 centimeters, so, or something around that. I think basically my swatch told me that I needed 390 stitches on this needle size, which is 3.25, to get that huge square. But that was a lot of stitches, and this is very, very stretchy. So instead I cast on 350 stitches, slightly smaller, and I'm just knitting back and forth in garter, and I am just gonna keep knitting until I run out of yarn. And if I run out of yarn and it's a weird little shape that can't be used as a scarf, shawl, or a baby blanket, because I feel like this could potentially be all three of those things, then, you know, I have one ball in a similar color to this that I could just add, and I also have the white that I could just add and it'll be a stripy thing. That's fine. This is just some really old stash that I just didn't know what to make with it, and I don't want it to be a garment just because I have knit some superwash garments and I just never wear them just because of the properties doesn't give me what I need. They're never quite warm enough. I don't know what it is. I just really love my woolly wools. So I wanted to make it into either like a cozy little shawl, because, you know, if it's a huge square I can fold it in half like a half and half triangles. It'll just be the same color. Or it'll be a really nice baby blanket to gift or something. And if this turns out really long but not as, you know, wide, it could work as a scarf. So we'll see. It's not as mindless to knit on as the garter blanket, because that is thicker yarn on thicker needles and it's just easier to feel the stitches. Because this is so thin, I do have to look a bit more closely so that I don't miss a stitch or drop a stitch. But I still think it's going to be a good travel knit. It's mindless. I just have to look a little bit at it, and that's okay. It's not as dark as this, so I'm still able to see the stitches. And I am just, knitting back and forth in garter. The two last stitches, when I get to the two last stitches, I put the yarn in front and then I slip them purlwise, and then I turn the work and knit. And that creates a nice icord looking edging. You can't even see it because these are so tiny. But trust me, the edging looks nice. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it on both sides, and I have no idea how big this is right now because it's all scrunched up on the needle, but I think it's going to be quite big and nice. So this is what I am bringing on the plane. So these are interchangeable needles. So how I go about it, if anyone is interested, is I travel with a purse, and a purse with many pockets. And in one of the pockets inside, I have a bunch of pens and some lip thingies. So I have this stuff in a pocket. So on the x-ray machine it just looks like I have a lot of pens and stuff, but I didn't even take them out. What's also in the pocket are my wooden interchangeable needles and a little thing for tightening them. Oh no, I did have it in my hand. So you can't even find it myself. So on the x-ray, this just looks like some pencils that I have. So I keep it like this in my little pocket in the purse, and I put needle stoppers, twist these off and put needle stoppers on them so I don't lose any stitches. So worst case scenario, they will rummage through my purse, look through my pens, see these little wooden things, and if they still manage to think that these little blunt wooden sticks are dangerous and take them, then the knitting is on hold and no stitches will be dropped. So worst case scenario, I just have to sit on the plane without my knitting, which, you know, is a hardship on its own, but it's fine. We'll survive. But that is what I do, and that is what I plan to do. And of course I forgot needle stoppers, so I will need to get that out of my suitcase because I do have them in there. I could potentially also just put them on one of these things. That is also possible. I might do that. Put that in there. Ready to travel. And I forgot my coffee once again. Yeah. That is all of the knitting that I have to show you from the cabin today. And oh no, I forgot to show you. I'm wearing socks as well. These are some Christmas socks that I made 3 years ago, I think. It's a pattern from Fiber Tales. I think it's the Lumi socks. It's some house socks that are knit with alafosslopi, quite thick, and it has like a Latvian braid going around. It's really cute. And I embroidered the letter I for Inga on them. I made them for all my family members, my brothers and my parents, with the respective letters to have as Christmas stockings. And I just keep them at the cabin because they're nice and warm and it's cold here. So I will put some footage at the end of this video of skiing yesterday. It was such a nice day, and I hope that you're well, and I will see you when I'm back from my travels. I'll try to take some nice footage to show, and maybe I'll find some little yarny souvenirs to show as well. Anyways, stay safe, stay cozy, make all the beautiful things that gives you happiness, and I will see you soon. Bye.